So George Knapp was recently a guest on a podcast, and he spoke about this Jellyfish UFO video. Do you remember this? It came out last year in January. Jeremy Corbell released it, right? Well, apparently, someone thinks that this video isn't much of anything, right? And this is someone that has been propped up in the UFO community by several different podcasters and Ross Coulthart as well, right? Talking about their work in the Pentagon's Office to Study UFOs, the UAPTF, the same office that David Grush was a part of, right? And his investigation came from. Well, this person, Sarah Gamm, apparently worked in this office, right? And yeah, she's come out and said that the Jellyfish isn't much of anything. Well, George Knapp responded to all that, and what he had to say, I have to be honest, doesn't really coincide with what everyone else has said about her. So that's kind of interesting. So first, let's start with the clip of Sarah Gamm talking about this Jellyfish UFO video.
So did you see the Jellyfish video that Jeremy Corbell released during your time at the task force?
So that video, because I'm going to clarify now. So that one was the one that had like the little thingies that looked like it was like moving. So yes, I have seen that. It is not what I was talking about in Matt Ford's interview. I appreciate people asking still, and they picked up that I was not on the same page. I did see it. I cannot provide what I know the analysis to be, but this is also giving me a good moment to state something that is very important to me. So first off, that video is not a UAP. I can't provide what it is because the analysis to that is classified, and I'm not risking that. But I'm going to say, it's so frustrating for people. I did not do the analysis on that video. So the people that did, you end up getting somebody that does unauthorized disclosure, which in the intelligence community is leaking information. So like Snowden. Snowden went in, leaked information, unauthorized disclosure. That's illegal. And when these people leak stuff like this, you leak 5% of what it is. They don't provide what the analysis actually was. So it's really frustrating from a person on my end that some of the data that was leaked from when I was on the task force, we would spend very good effort on. And somebody would leak a still photo or a screenshot or whatever, and only provide that screenshot. And that's not the story.
Now, before we get to this next clip, I think it's a perfect time to introduce the sponsor for today's video. Because you see, I hate politics, y'all, to be honest with you, because you never know what's true and what's not, which is why I have partnered up with Straight Arrow News for today's video, because Straight Arrow News gives it to you straight. I find it important to use because I can't tell left-leaning, right-leaning how things are going to go, right? So with this website and available app, you can get to the truth. Because Straight Arrow News serves you, not an agenda, so you can make the most informed decisions. Straight Arrow News is committed to unbiased, fact-based journalism in an environment where media mistrust is at an all-time high. I agree with that. With today's divisive political and media environments, our goal of serving you, not any party's agenda, is even more critical. I definitely agree with that. By approaching every issue from an objective middle ground and highlighting underreported stories, we aim to empower you with the facts and provide context. I mean, who doesn't want to get this, right? They've got a website and an app where you can clearly see what is left-leaning, right-leaning, and then what is just straight down the middle, which is why I love using Straight Arrow News, and I highly recommend you use it as well. It's absolutely perfect for what we're doing here at Vetted on this channel, so I love this product. I'll put a link in the description for the website and an app download. So go to san.com/vetted. Again, that's san.com/vetted, VETTED. ED. You're not only supporting me, but you're supporting the hardworking journalism that takes place on Straight Arrow News. So kind of shots fired there, if you ask me, right? A little bit. Not only is she saying that video isn't much of anything, it's prosaic, but also people that leak out information and this, that, and the other. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of interesting what she said, right? And then you have George Knapp's response, right? Let's get to that. Let's hear what George Knapp has to say about her position in this task force, right, to study UAP, and kind of, thoughts on her declaration of what that video actually is, right?
I had Sarah Gamm on the podcast, UAP Task Force Analyst. I don't know if you heard some comments she made,
Yes.
either with Ross Coulthart or Matt Ford, I can't remember, around the Jellyfish video that yourself and Jeremy brought forward.
Yeah.
And just to again paraphrase, when I spoke to her, she seemed to be under the impression she knew exactly what it was, that it wasn't something anomalous or ET, shall we say. And she was quite frustrated at who leaked it and why it was leaked. And when I spoke to her, do you want to speak on that as much as you can?
Sure. Yeah. The first time I heard her name, she was described as the manager of the UAP task force, which was ridiculous. The second time I heard her name, they said she was a member of the UAP task force. So I went to the UAP task force. The people that we know ran it, Jay Stratton, Travis Taylor. I asked, do you know this lady? They'd never met her. They'd never heard of her. Jay Stratton said she could be one of the hundreds of intelligence folks in the government who at one point had touched some of these videos, had seen some of the images and done some analysis. But to say that she worked with or for the UAP task force is a little bit of a stretch. It's like me saying, I subscribe to the MUFON journal, therefore I'm the head of MUFON. It's ridiculous. As for the Jellyfish video, I can tell you when that video was shown to the UAP task force, and it was after the UAP task force had ceased to exist. Jeremy and I presented it to the two names I just mentioned in a hotel room after the UAP task force was done. They had never seen it before. So either Sarah saw this and didn't pass it along, or she's not exactly being truthful. She may have seen a video that looked like it. I don't know why she's saying it. As for the people who leaked it, if she knows who they are, she should probably tell somebody, because this was a classified operation, a classified base. It was put on a classified server. If they know who leaked it, you would think there would be an investigation. That has not happened. It has not happened. The first time that the UAP task force personnel saw that video was after the UAP task force had ceased to exist. And that is a fact.
So that's interesting, right? George, not even sure she formally worked for the office, right? And may have just been, of the hundreds of analysts that they use, she was just one of them, right? But the way she was sort of propped up before George's clip here, right, before he said what he said, this is what Ross Coulthart had to say about her when she came on his show.
Today, I'm very honoured to be able to welcome to Reality Check a woman who is an extraordinarily accomplished woman. Sarah Gamm worked on the UAP task force officially for about a year with the Pentagon in the Department of Defense, and then unofficially for a lot longer before Arrow took over. And I've seen her speaking elsewhere, and I think her story is fascinating. I really admire her willingness to engage candidly about the fact that she believes she has certain gifts, psychic abilities, mediumship abilities, and yet at the same time, she's an accomplished scientist, trained scientist, and intelligence analyst working in different times at very high levels of the US intelligence community.
So it sounds like there's some conflicting stories here about, right, her position in this task force, just her position in the government in general. But I mean, clearly she held a position, is a smart person, and just, from a public standpoint, I don't know what's going on. Right? I don't know. Did she work in the office or not? Right? Why would Jay Stratton, the head of that office, right, not know who she is? And why would she be described as the manager of this UAPTF, right? Something's not making any sense here, right? Something's not adding up as usual. But something that I found interesting about her, and for whatever reason, it's brought up, right? There's sort of something positive about her, right? Is that she has these other abilities, right? Aside from this. So I think just for the sake of context, this is kind of what Ross Coulthart meant, right? Here is Sarah on a podcast talking about some of her, I guess, psychic abilities would be the right term.
I could actually tap into residual energy in an area as well. So like if you watch, alien UFO movies right now, documentaries, I should say.
Okay.
If you watch the documentaries, I can actually see what the residual energy is of an area. So I was watching one the other day and it talked about a crash site, and I could feel the beings terrified, like
Oh, wow.
that crash there. So I knew, I'm like, wow, these people aren't lying. That actually, I could feel the fear that's imprinted in the land,
Right.
and the impact and everything. So hopefully one day we will Nirvana Day, and we're gonna, I'm gonna mark it within 2 years. This is gonna happen,
Excellent.
and I'll be able to work with Phenom more often.
That'd be cool.
Now, I'm not here to judge her in any way, shape, or form about this. I don't understand the full capacity of the mind, and I don't pretend to. Very open-minded. But for me, this is interesting for sure. But more importantly, just why the discrepancies and who she is, what she does, what's going on, right? Because it's not like she doesn't talk about something similar, right? I found something else interesting about her. She was asked if she had ever heard of Immaculate Constellation. And this was kind of interesting, her answer.
Have you ever heard of Immaculate Constellation?
I heard of it this week. I have not heard of it before that.
So, okay, she's never heard of Immaculate Constellation. Well, in her very first interview she did on the Good Trouble show, she brought up a particular case, right? At the very end of the show, just a quick question. And there's something interesting about that. Take a look.
What is the most compelling thing you can discuss, and what are your hopes for the rest of 2024?
Oh my gosh. I hope I'm really not. My family's gonna make fun of this for me because I know a couple of them are watching. I hate. So this does sound funny, but it looked really crazy. There was something that we kind of ended up, not kind of, that's the wrong word. We ended up calling it a flying brain. It wasn't balloons. It looked absolutely bonkers. But it was, that was what we called it because that was what it looked like. Sometimes those things did end up looking like packs of balloons from a kid's birthday party, but in this case, it wasn't. It was really bizarre, and I'm so sorry this sounds so silly, but it really did.
Hey, whatever, what you saw is what you saw.
A flying brain with things hanging off of it. That kind of sounds like a jellyfish a little bit, doesn't it? Right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, right? Doesn't this look like a jellyfish? Or, excuse me, flying brains, right? That they're saying jellyfish? I don't know. Either way, with things dangling off of it. Either way, what's interesting is in the Immaculate Constellation document, whistleblower report, right, that she says she's never heard of until it came out. There's a report in there, or an incident inside the report about another jellyfish incident, right, on the U.S.-Mexican border. And I just found that interesting, to say the least. Northcom jellyfish UAP crosses U.S.-Mexico border. On USG networks, there exists FLIR footage of an irregularly shaped UAP flying across the southern border. The UAP appeared in FLIR to be modeled irregularly with hot-cold emissions and approximated a jellyfish or floating brain with hanging appendages in appearance. The UAP flew against the wind with no visible means of propulsion, maintained an unnatural rigidity in its movements and flight path, and maintained a comparatively low altitude to geographic features. In appearance and behavior, footage of this UAP violating the airspace of the southern border resembled the same class of UAPs observed near DoD facilities in Iraq and Afghanistan. There exists at least one compilation video of this class of UAP sourced from DoD Force Protection Assets and Theater ISR, which uses this footage as a point of comparison. Well, a few things here, right? Number one, she literally describes an exact account that is in this Immaculate Constellation whistleblower report. So a few things we could gather from that, right? Either this person that made this report has access to the same information as Sarah, or Sarah lied about not knowing about the report. She may have helped with the report. It's hard to tell. Was this whistleblower just one of these mini analysts like George is saying, right? I don't know. Just trying to piece together everything, right? The second part would be that it's also mentioned that there's more footage of jellyfish-like stuff from the Middle East, which is exactly where that video that Jeremy Corbell shared is taken, right, at a DoD facility in the Middle East. So why is Sarah saying that one's BS, but this one's not? I don't know. It's just something odd there. But something else caught my eye right at the end of that Immaculate Constellation report. And that's the mention of a compilation video of other UAP like that, right? Jellyfish style UAP. Floating brains, right, if you will, or whatever, with Lou Elizondo when he was on the Jesse Michaels show. And in sort of a moment of not off the book or off the record, but kind of near them, you know, you'll see what I mean. It's kind of like a relaxed, candid moment. Lou Elizondo drops a bomb that there is a compilation video of all these jellyfish UFO, and that he was going to share it with them, like a DVD of sorts, right? Because in that episode, a gentleman who works at the Masonic Lodge where they had this interview tells a story of seeing a jellyfish UAP in the 1970s, right? And that's why they get into that conversation.
Me and two of my friends were standing on the sidewalk talking down on Wiley Street Northeast. And while we were talking, just happened to look up to see this thing going up in the air, looked like a huge jellyfish. I said, what the hell are the jellyfish doing up going? And it just was going up and up, and like the jellyfish was in the water or whatever. At the bottom of it, looking at it, it looks like looking into a volcano when you see reddish and black bubbling, lava bubbling or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what it looked like under the bottom of it.
First of all, when did this occur? What year?
That was in the 70s, around 73, 74, somewhere along
Early
there.
to mid 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, and was that here in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Thank you for telling that story for us. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Both the D.C. flyover and a jellyfish.
Right, and by the way, there's other accounts of jellyfish.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Oh yeah, there's actually a DVD on it. Wow. Actually, I can send it to you, yeah.
So that's interesting. So Lou Elizondo, who is mentioned quite extensively in the Immaculate Constellation report by name, the only person, it's weird, right? Something's not adding up, because they're saying that this Immaculate Constellation report isn't connected to anyone in particular, not the same group of people that have always reported on this. Well, that's turning out not to be true at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, there's some interesting connections here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, that's it for today's video. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.